If you want to know if Elon Musk's goal of reaching Mars can be achieved, and if he maybe did a design error when creating his Starship rocket, then stay tuned and watch this interview. Hello and welcome back to Alex SpaceX Talks. Today we have a special interview episode shot directly from Davos during my winter holidays. My first guest for this interview is Professor Kathrin Altwegg. She is a Swiss citizen and she was the principal investigator for the ROSINA project during the Rosetta Comet mission. In the first part of this interview, we talk about the Artemis 1 mission, Elon Musk's ambitious goal of reaching Mars, and if he really made a mistake when designing his Starship rocket. Okay. Yes, Professor Altwegg, many thanks for joining my channel, Alex SpaceX Talks, for this interview and for your time. Yeah, a lot of people argue that money spent for space exploration should be better allocated to dealing with actual problems we face here on Earth. But if we compare the current NASA budget of 24 billion US dollars, which is only around 0.2% of the total expenses of the US government, I find that quite low. Do you think governmental space agencies like NASA and ESA are being awarded enough funds? Should it be more? And if yes, to which projects and missions would you primarily want to allocate them?
That's hard to answer. You know, you have to be aware of the people who are not very close to space to space research or to manned space flight. And of course they don't like if too much money is spent for space. So you have to have it on an acceptable level,
Yeah.
accepted by most people. Otherwise, it may backfire if you spend too much for space and too little for other things. And you have to deliver for the money you get. You have to deliver. Also for the public. Not only for you yourself or space or science or whatever, you also have to involve the public so that they support what you spend in space.
Yeah.
And so far, my experience is that people are very willing to support space science, but up to a certain level.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's I always compare it with in Switzerland spends about the same amount for space technology and science as it spends for littering.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's
which I find quite a good comparison.
That's a good comparison. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And of course, you have to understand space science a little bit as culture.
Yeah.
So you cannot expect to. Space science will not help in fighting diseases or making peace or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's human culture, and we spend a lot of money for human culture, like music.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
That's much more than for space.
Yeah,
but we all agree that without music, our world would be poorer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Without culture, without science, our world would be poorer.
Well, let's talk about the moon, Mars, and beyond. The Artemis mission has its goal of bringing humans back to the moon and eventually Mars. Do we really need to go back to the moon? Do we really need to land on Mars? Is the exploration focus right, or should it be somewhere else? In your view?
Well, that's not my opinion. It should be somewhere else. You know, manned space flight has nothing to do with science. I would claim. It's just men always wanted to explore and conquer new things. So first it was the America or whatever. Now it's the moon and Mars. But it's clear humans are not made to live outside of the Earth. And there is no solution to cosmic rays for humans outside of the Earth. Mars and Moon don't have an atmosphere. We cannot press up there, and we cannot make it habitable without a spacesuit.
Yeah, and also the missing gravity, huh?
Yeah, missing gravity on Moon, the long trip to Mars, which is most probably deadly for humans because of cosmic rays and because of other things. It doesn't make sense, and we never can hope to live on Mars.
Okay.
That's you can go to Mars and then dig a deep hole and live out down there, but I always claim you can do that on Earth as well.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
so what are you doing on Mars? It's not really interesting.
Yeah.
And robots can do much more than humans in space because robots are relatively cheap compared to humans. And, if a robot fails, it fails. If a human fails, it's a disaster.
That's true. Yeah, yeah, that's true.
And I'm not sure if the public would support it. If we have dead astronauts on Mars, that might be the end of space exploration.
Yeah. That's a very good point. Yeah. Yeah.
If we remember what happened with Challenger, you know that was almost the end of
exactly. Yeah.
Manned space flight in the US.
Exactly.
Just because a few people died. Much more die every day on the street, but
that's true. Yeah, yeah.
That's not what the public wants to see.
Yeah, yeah. For the, let's say, the last part of the interview, because of my channel Alex SpaceX Talks, we need to talk a bit more about Mars. And the next question is, Elon Musk's vision and the mission statement of his company SpaceX is to colonize Mars, to make humans a multi-planetary species and thus becoming a spacefaring civilization. In your view as an astrophysicist, is this pure nonsense, or might it be doable, maybe not now, but someday soon in the future?
Well, I would say it's not doable someday soon. Maybe in the far future, because we cannot predict the far future.
Yeah.
But with all the difficulties, as I said, cosmic rays, the missing atmosphere, you have to transport everything from the Earth to Mars. Humans to live there, that's just not doable and probably should not be attempted to do, because that's then really a lot of money which we could spend better on Earth.
Okay, yeah.
I'm a fan of space, but that's very dense.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, I've also seen a lot of your previous interviews where you exactly mentioned this point. Yeah, yeah. And if I say words like ship 24, booster 7, static fire, belly flop maneuver, first orbital test flight, are you familiar with those SpaceX specific buzzwords? Are you following the current progress of Elon Musk's ambition of reaching Mars with his fully reusable rocket Starship, currently being developed in Boca Chica, Texas?
Yes, I follow it. I clearly follow it because of the technology. I think Elon Musk does a few things right. So looking for new technology, making spaceflight cheaper, and so on. So it's an interesting way to go. The goal is just the wrong one.
Okay, that's yeah.
The technology to develop technology, I think that's okay. If I look at this Starship, I wonder if it ever flies. Okay. It doesn't look like something flyable, but
okay.
I may clearly be wrong.
Okay, but do you think from say a design perspective of the rocket, because I see in a lot of SpaceX YouTube channels, they say that Elon made a terrible mistake when he designed the rocket. Do you think it's from a design perspective? Or?
Yes, I think so. It's from the design perspective.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if it ever flies, but
okay.
If you go back a little bit to in history and look what the Russians did during the Apollo time, I think they did the same mistakes as Elon Musk is doing. Having several motors which all have to be aligned perfectly in order to have a perfect launch.
Okay, so you're
the Russians never managed.
Yeah, that's true.
They never managed. So I wonder if Elon Musk will manage.
But you're here specifically talking about those, I guess, 33 Raptor engines in the booster, and
Yeah. Because they really have to be aligned. You know, if one of them does something wrong, then that's it. Probably.
I honestly must say I also truly hope that the rocket, the Starship, will ever lift off, because it's I've devoted a lot of time also with my channel to this hopefully success in the near future. But I mean, we had the last Starship test flight in May, almost 2 years ago, and I mean, we're desperately waiting for the first orbital test flight since maybe 1 year now. Okay, the FAA approval is still pending, but I just keeping my fingers crossed and hope for the best. So
you know, all these rockets take much longer. The SLS, finally it went. But it took a very long time, and it was not the first. You know, there were three programs which failed. So
exactly. Yeah.
It was overdue by at least 10 years.
Yeah, so, that's true. And it costs a lot more than anticipated.
It costs a lot more, and I think it's not sustainable. The SLS is not sustainable. That's true. It's way too expensive.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, we come to the final question, and maybe the most philosophical question of the interview. According to the Drake's equation, which is a probabilistic argument used to estimate the number of active communicative extraterrestrial civilizations in the Milky Way galaxy, the ballpark estimate is 36. But there is also the rare Earth hypothesis, which states that we might actually really be alone in the universe. What do you personally think? Are we humans on planet Earth the only intelligent life form in our galaxy?
Yeah, that's hard to say. I would say it's probable that we are the only one in our galaxy, not the only one in our universe. Currently, we estimate 10 to the 22 planets in the universe, and that's a huge number.
Yeah.
And so if you look at statistics, there are probably many Earth-like planets out there, really many. Mm-hmm. But if you then look at the history of the humans, what it all needed to finally arrive at humans, that needs a lot of, how do you call it, chance or luck.
Yeah.
It's not just a straightforward way from the first life to humans. For example, we had, in the last 500 million years, we had a relatively stable climate. Plus minus 10 degrees, which is stable. Before that, we had an ice world, and before that, we had a very hot world. But the 500 million years were needed, and during this time we had at least 5 apocalypses where most life disappeared.
Yeah.
And that was mostly because of volcanoes. And for example, if the dinosaurs would not have disappeared, we would not be here.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So we needed the apocalypses as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's really, that has to do with a lot of luck.
Yeah.
So there are probably not many planets out there with the same amount of luck. And then it has to be at the same time as we.
Mm-hmm.
So the timing is very difficult, because we can use electromagnetic waves since about 100 years, a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And the others have to use them as well if we want to communicate.
Yeah.
And they should not be too far away.
That's true.
You know, if they are 1600 light years away, it takes 3200 years for the signal to come back.
Yeah, exactly.
By that time we might be extinct.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Whatever. Or we might have found wormholes to communicate and no longer use electromagnetic waves.
That's another point. Okay.
So it really needs a lot. I don't think we will ever hear from anybody else, which does not mean that there is nobody there.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, that's an interesting aspect. Okay. Yeah. Thanks a lot for the interview. This was the end, and yeah, really, I would like to thank you, Mrs. Altwegg, for your time, and yeah, I hope you had also the pleasure in talking with me and answering my questions. So thanks a lot, Ms. Altwegg.
You're very welcome. It was a lot of fun. Thanks.
In part 2 of the interview with Professor Altwegg, we will talk more about asteroids and comets, and if we humans have a chance to prevent a possible impact. In the meantime, I wish you all a very nice week and see you soon in my next video. Ciao.